third culture Australia.
International students also face a lot of racism, a lot of barriers.
Yep.
I feel like not being cared of enough. Tell you what happens. I go to India.
Yeah.
They tell me you're not Indian. I come to Australia. They tell me I'm not Australian.
Oh, so you're in the middle section.
I'm the third culture.
Yeah.
I'm not connected with any party.
Okay.
So as per my role, I have to be impartial because I'm a government employee.
You still have opinions, no?
I can have opinions, 100%.
Are international students in danger? Hi guys, hello everyone, welcome back to another vlog, actually podcast vlog with Kano. Thank you for coming, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
In rmit University, and today we have this special guest gonna talk about, or gonna have an informal, honest conversation about so many topics. I can't specify right now, but before going for that, it's more of a podcast, so I would like you to first mention what you are, what you do, and yeah, go ahead.
Hello everyone, my name is Kano. मुझको हिंदी आती है, but इतनी अच्छी भी नहीं आती, so I'll stick to English.
Yeah,
but
the vlog is already in English.
There we go.
Yeah.
I migrated from India when I was about 8 years old, so very young when I first arrived. And when we first arrived here, there was no Indian grocery stores, not a lot of restaurants, not the Melbourne we know now, or even Australia we know now. Very different.
Which year?
2007.
More than almost 7 years?
Almost 17.
Almost, oh.
Yeah. And so at that time, Indian culture or even multiculturalism was not known.
Yeah.
And so I grew up in a very white environment where I was the only brown person, only person that spoke another language, had cultural things.
Yep.
And so I was a big fan of multiculturalism. I'm a big fan of people come together, celebrating our differences. Because in Australia, you might notice it's not just Indian community.
It is multiple, there's heaps of.
So many different communities, and we all figure out a way to work together. And sometimes there's issues, and so that's what I work in. So the two big positions I hold is the Youth Commissioner at the Multicultural Commission down in Victoria. So that's with the government, and so my job is advising the minister, advising the government on how to best work with multicultural people.
At the parliament level?
Yeah, mainly with multicultural young people in particular. So that's my role.
Yep.
Very lucky, get to be in very high-level positions, talk with some very big people, sometimes very bigger than me. So that's that. And then the other side, I run our business called Third Culture, where I go into events, go into schools, and I do public speaking. So public speaking on diversity and inclusion.
Kano, right?
Yep.
But what's your full name for the audience?
My full name is Krishnadev Singh, but most people can't say that. My parents, family don't say it. They call me Kano.
And Kano is fine with you?
Yep, Kano is fine. Or Kanudo is
Kano,
mine.
okay. So, I mean, I almost had a research before starting this. And I was a little bit nervous. Usually, the other person is nervous when I make a video with that person. But this time, I was nervous. Because when I was reading about you, I was like, what's this Young Gujus of Victoria? I would like to know. Because you are a committee member of Young Gujus of Australia. I would like to know more on that.
Yeah, so again, there's a lot of events happening. There's a lot of Gujarati events happening. I'm Gujarati, but there's nothing for the youth. And I think that was missing. And so a few of my friends, we got together. We're like, all these garbas happening, all these events, but then we go there, uncles. There's uncles there, there's aunties, little kids running. Nothing for like us. Like we just want to have fun, network. You know what I mean?
Yeah, makes sense.
And so we're like, why don't we create something for just young people? Young Gujaratis. And so we created Young Gujus of Victoria, non-profit community event. And now we host garbas, we host different events.
And other people are also like okay to come if
anyone can come.
Any diverse multicultural person can join you.
Anyone can come. We're not just Gujarati, but most of the people are Gujarati. But then you might be Gujarati, but then I know you and you're not Gujarati. But I'm like, oh, come to Garba, no stress.
Yeah.
And so we had a Garba coming up in June, which is already sold out, unfortunately. But so that's a community event where people come together, make friends, learn about business, learn about PR. And that's the space that we created. We have about 500 members at the moment.
That's really good. That's really good. And this Third Culture Australia, that's a company, and you're the founder of that company, right? Would like to know more on that. Yeah,
so I'm sure you would know, you go into university, racism is a thing. Right, directly or indirectly,
it happens.
Right, when you apply for jobs, sometimes you don't get it. When you apply for, let's say, a rental property, because you're from this background or you have this visa, you don't get it, which I think is a bit unfair. And I feel like, especially in Australia, we should try to live together because we're very diverse. And so my organization, we work to address that. And so we're going to different organizations, work with universities, schools, to make sure that the staff that I'm with and the students, no racism goes on. Very big issue. Obviously, we can't solve it, but that's what my business does. We try to end racism.
And the person who's standing for this point is still a domestic person, but see, he's still doing work for us. So hats off for that, first of all.
Thank you. And we're actually doing some work with Study Melbourne as well.
Okay.
Because I know international students also face a lot of racism, a lot of barriers.
Yep.
I feel like not being cared of enough. And so we're working with Study Melbourne on an exciting project.
Yep.
As well.
I mean, this podcast thing is more of related to international students, but from an aspect of how a multicultural organization and this third culture Australia organization, which is your company, is helping anyone, but how it impacts Australian students. I would say it's irrespective of domestic, irrespective of international students. So, because the main Venn diagram which I cover in the videos is students. So we'll try to stick together.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because there's still some of the topics which no one discusses on the racism, on the sense of belonging, and on some of the language barriers as well, which students feel and no one talks on it. So you are the correct person, I believe, can give advices and can point out some of the major things which are out there related to students. So as your background, I got it. Okay. So see, I wrote the script.
Nice.
And so some of the challenges which you think students, irrespective of domestic or international, feel related to multicultural.
I think the first one is, no matter if you're international, domestic, you want to feel like you belong. In a school, in a university, in a workplace, you want to feel like you belong. And big part of us multiculturals is we look different. We're not the norm, right? We look different.
Yes.
I have a very Australian accent, whereas I know some people don't, right? And sometimes that faces barriers, right? And so I think that's automatically, as soon as you come here, you know you're different.
Yeah.
Even though people might not tell you, अंदर कुछ कहता है like नहीं ये आपके लिए नहीं है.
Yeah.
And so I think that sometimes means we hide ourselves.
Yeah.
We hide our culture. We put up fake accents, or we feel like we have to fit in.
Yep.
Right. And so, but I think in the Australian context, I'll be very honest with you.
Yep.
You have to do both. You have to sort of, because this is not our home, right? For a lot of and so we have to sort of accept that we can't demand.
At least not in the initial part, it's not on home. Maybe in the sooner or the later phase it will be.
Yeah.
But in the initial, it's not.
Yeah.
So
100%. I think initially it's not our home, and like even now, I don't feel like this is my home. Because
it's been 17 years.
Yeah,
but how?
I'll tell you what happens. I go to India.
Yeah.
They tell me you're not Indian. I come to Australia. They tell me I'm not Australian.
Oh, so you're in the middle section.
I'm
like,
the third culture.
Yeah. You're like, okay, you're men taking. Oh.
So I feel like I can't come
unbalanced.
Yeah.
Kind
unbalanced. And so I think that goes on for a long time. So I think you have to remember when you come here.
Yeah.
We can't demand everything changes to our needs. We have to, we come here. We have to change a few things.
Yeah. We need to be adjusting according to their requirements. It's not they're not going to change according related to us. So that's more of a challenge that you feel.
And but also, just because we're adjusting does not mean they should be discriminatory against us. I think that's the balance of we need to adjust to, because we're not in our home country, but also they need to make sure when we say they, we mean people who've been living here, the system, they don't discriminate against us.
Yes.
They need to come to a happy medium.
Yes.
Sometimes I feel like it's here and here. Not so much in the middle where people meet in the middle. What do you think?
Actually, your point is correct. But what I felt is past maybe 3-4 years. I mean, I'm here for this 2 years, but still I've seen students who came. They try to find the people from their culture. They're not afraid. It's just they don't even want to go to any other cultural background. They just want to follow. So, for example, if we'll talk about this university, Indians will be liking more to live within Indian community. But why don't you just go out and at least talk so that you can, kind of evolve and you can overcome that challenge of the language? Because if you stay with those people, you will learn eventually. Maybe through their accent, maybe through their culture, maybe through their eating habits, walking habits, everything. But it's just, if I would like to give to someone, it's like, go out, meet different people, and at least try to be at the ambivert section. Don't be an introvert and don't be in the same comfort zone. Because if I speak Hindi, so मैं हिंदी में बात कर सकता हूँ, मैं किसी के साथ भी करूँगा. But अगर सामने वाला नहीं करना चाहता, वो चाहता है कि वो evolve हो, तो let him be. किसी को रोको मत. That's what I feel. What do you think?
I think you're bang on. I think we can't force someone to change, but also I know it's very comforting to be with our own people. Obviously, when you're new that's the easiest. But I think in Australia, we're very lucky. Yeah, you have access to so many different cultures, so many different people. Why not make the chance to meet someone new or learn about a different culture, to speak a different language?
Yes.
I think obviously you want to be safe because various reasons. But then I'm a big fan of trying different cultures. But then also, un logo ko bhi aana chahiye.
Yes.
It should be both ways.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
It shouldn't be we're doing all the adjusting. It should be both ways.
Yeah, I have seen students from, we'll talk about Indian society, कि India से जो बच्चे आए हैं, they would like to go to maybe Chinese communities, maybe Australian communities and build up. And they're not much in number. They're less in number because most of the people would like to say the same as I mentioned earlier. But even they are going, the other people are not coming to us. I would say this feeling of evolving and maybe maintaining a bridge between different communities should be both ways, the same as you said. But on that, I would like you to ask the Third Culture Australia, your company, how does that help in overcoming these challenges?
Good question. So I think the biggest thing that we do, we work with people on the ground, but then the consulting, which is a challenging part, we work with organizations to change how they work. So instead of saying international students, they don't come to our events or they don't participate, we say, that's not their fault. That's your fault as an organization that you're not good enough or you haven't figured out a way to approach them or maybe go to them.
Yes.
And so we change their thinking. Instead of, the easiest thing is to blame the community.
Yep.
This community is doing this community is too hard to reach, this community is not interested. We're saying that's not their fault. Maybe you need to change as an organization. Instead of doing all online things, maybe you need to do more in-person things. Maybe instead of doing a sports day, you need to do a food day, or instead of doing this, you need to put on Bollywood music.
Cool.
So we change, we get them to change, to adapt to the community rather than them wanting everyone else to adjust.
That consulting part, I would like to know how you guys consult the organization through Third Culture company.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Yeah, so normally when an organization comes, or we go out to them, and when I say organization, I mean, it could be business, could be university, could be school, whatever that is. They come to us or we go to them and they tell, we're having issues getting multicultural people, or we have racism at our school, or we have this happening, help us. And so I would go in, my team would go in, and we would talk and figure out, why is it happening? What's the issue? What's the root cause? Is it the community's issue or is it your organization issue? We ask, we figure out, we have expertise, and we give them solutions. We give them, here's what you need to do. Here's 4 or 5 things that can, once you implement them, change will happen.
Yep.
So our job is to identify the issues, because a lot of times when you're in it, you can't tell. When a third person looks, like, here it is, all right, this is a problem.
Yep.
And so our job is that. And then we give them solutions, evidence-based, that's worked, then how they can do it.
Makes sense. But it does take some time, right?
It is the boring policy writing stuff, but I like it. It's where I see change happening.
And you have the agreements and all in that.
Yeah.
You sign it off.
And I'm very passionate about it. That's why I do it. Very passionate about inclusion, very passionate about bringing people together.
Okay. So, how can universities in Australia promote? Because organizations you mentioned, okay, but I would like to know how about universities can promote this inclusion of different international and domestic students in a single diverse form.
I might flip the question and ask you, from your experience, what's it been like from different universities that you might be aware of? What's it been like them doing inclusion work? Have you seen it?
Events, yes.
Yep.
But I still felt that, events is not something, or a particular club is not something that can make a change in thinking capabilities of any international or domestic students related to other person's problems or, experiences. If I have a problem, if I'll tell you, you may stand for me, but if I'll have a problem and I'll tell someone who's from a diverse nation or diverse culture, I can't vouch on that person, right? Even if we meet him in a particular event, multicultural event, we call it multicultural event. When the multicultural event happened, most of the people from India. And even myself, I was more into recording what's happening in the Indian club. Less of I recorded on other. And there's heaps of different culture, but still maximum performances and all which were happening is related to Indian, Chinese, more the dominating ones.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So where's the multicultural thing?
Yeah, I think what universities should do, and if you're listening, university, my Third Culture would love to help, is international students, let's be honest, they bring in a lot of revenue, right? Second biggest exporter in Australia.
Yes.
And I think the events and stuff, which is fun, which looks flashy, but then also I think what I'd love to see is universities supporting international students. supporting them, because life is hard here as a student, and so I would love to see university advocating for better, providing better services, providing maybe free services. Because if you're coming here and it's very expensive, because university should be, trying to get you, rather than, because right now the numbers are skewed where there's 100 international students, 5 universities, right? And so they have the upper hand, right? Whereas I would love for the universities to be wanting to get students and support them in a genuine way. Like, they can do the events, that stuff, not too hard to do, but I would love for them to really genuinely support. Because I know, like, being part of a community member, I know it's tough out here. And we saw that during COVID a lot. And so I would love to see universities actually genuinely helping.
I wish, but that's going to take so much time.
Yeah.
I took that pause because I was figuring out if I would be in university and if I would follow those rules. Not rules, maybe those policies.
The monetary is not there, right?
Yeah.
It's expensive.
It's going to be expensive. It's not going to be just, okay, let's do it now. Yeah. There's heaps of policies they have to change if they want to make like a united culture. And why, I have a question, not for you, it's in general. Why do they keep it like multicultural? Why not just, okay, whichever culture you want to follow, but stand like a one culture? Third culture is trying to do it.
Yes, we're trying to make, I'll tell you the history behind it, because before, multicultural, you have, the government sees different sectors. They see, let's say, the elderly, they see young people, and they need a bracket for migrants, refugees, international students. It's too big, and so they put it under the multicultural bracket, pretty much, right? It's a category to put all and so that's the term. That's why it's used. And I would love for us to get to a level where we can be united together, rather than all these I think all these different cultures. We can have your culture, but then as a community, we stand strong. I would love for that to happen.
Any innovative programs or initiatives that you saw or maybe experienced, or maybe any strategies that universities are using in the current environment for students?
Good question. I don't know too many, but I know there's a big shift on making sure universities' workers reflect the community. As in, so let's say RMIT
staff members
reflect the community that's being, especially on the ground. They reflect who they're working with. And I think you might see more and more co-design approaches coming through. I know there's a big study, Melbourne push to do more co-design work where the community tells the organizations or tells, here's what we need. Can you do it for us? And so rather than the organization guessing or figuring out what they should do, it's students or the community telling, here's what we need to do. So I think co-design, you might hear come up, I think, more and more in years to come, which is you get the community, what do you need from us? And we'll provide it for you, rather than, come help us deliver it.
You said maybe it can be confidential, but still I would like to know. You said you mentioned these points to Parliament as well, Victorian Parliament, right? What is their reaction on these points?
Yeah. Well, it's so my roles.
Forget the universities part. Let's talk on Parliament.
Yeah. Well, so I don't technically go into Parliament and talk. I have different meets. So we.
But you still mentioned these points, right?
Yeah. But we can't. Politics, right?
He cannot tell it directly to me. Obviously, you can't.
You can't just go up to and be like, scream, do this.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, right? With politics, changed. It's slow. It's boring. So you gotta navigate, and there's 100 things wrong with the world. You can't tell that to the decision maker. Yes, so do this. It's not going to happen. And so you have to slowly push different levers, and that's politics, right? You can't do everything together. You have to sort of pull levers and mention things in a way that's digestible. And then that's not going to happen like that. It takes time. But I know it's happening.
So when you went to Parliament for this, so see the smile, because there comes the interesting questions. So when you went to the Parliament, which party were you directly contracted with? Let me guess, Labour Party?
I'm not connected with any party.
Okay.
So as per my role, I have to be impartial because I'm a government employee.
You still have opinions, no?
I can have opinions, 100%. I have strong opinions, but in all the work that I do, I'm impartial. But that doesn't mean I have my views. My views are on diversity. My views are on supporting multicultural communities. And so I use various, when I'm talking to politicians, when I'm doing stuff, that's where I advocate on, which is about inclusion, about supporting multicultural communities.
If this keeps on going, because we have seen, cases like stabbing, multicultural riots, and even related to our particular nation, like the Palestine things happening and all. So politics is trying to act on that, but that's their stuff. If I'll talk about international, not the domestic, international students, because these things do impact international students if they're going to be coming to Australia on this number, or recently they have pointed like a capping stuff, which is going to be happening soon, right? So the main thing, maybe the main title of the podcast, are international students in danger?
In terms of physical health, or
in sense of feeling discrimination, feeling diverse cross-questioning from different domestic students, or maybe university-wise, enrollment-wise?
Good question.
It's a hard question.
It is a tough question. And I feel like, because I'm not international, I can't speak on as much. But I would say...
Because you have been sitting in parliament, right? You have been sitting with people, meeting ministers. So they have opinions. And those opinions turn into policies, and eventually, if everything goes good. So you are the only one who can answer through multicultural aspect, that if multicultural people or students will come, and if these things will keep on going, like the stabbing and all, will they be in danger? Or is the government acting on it?
I think they are doing positive things around it. I think example I would say is a study Melbourne directly. Again, I'm not too included with the international students, I'm going to be honest. But I know in the multicultural field, there is a lot of work happening. I know it's not as slow. I mean, it's not as quick as a lot of us like, but I believe, especially in the Melbourne context, multiculturalism is majority now. We are in the majority. So I think eventually you will see more and more positive. But I know in the wider context, and you will see this when economic stress happens, when world stress happens, the easiest thing to do is divide. And like when push comes to shove, you look at the visible things. And so that's why sometimes migrants, international students face the brunt of it. They're saying they're the reasons we have this. And so I think looking at the world situation at the moment of economic stress, blah, 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 that I think that's coming out more. But at the root of it, multiculturalism is a positive. International students bring so much to this country, let's be honest.
Including like money as well. Yeah, not only economic, but other stuff too.
Yeah.
Because if they won't be here, universities won't work, right?
No. University, certain skills that they bring, certain businesses.
Actually,
right?
yes.
Businesses, also new practices, different ways of working. I think the overall net benefit is huge. But when you look at today's world, when there's a lot of stresses, it's easier to point the finger.
Yeah.
But I think overall, there is a positive, and I don't think, to answer your big question, I don't think they're in danger. I think things will change, and they will continue to change.
Because why I mentioned this point is like related to the accommodation housing crisis which is going on. We are the ones who got, sometimes ministers do target that yes, international students are the reason why accommodation and housing crisis. But statistically, we are not the only reason. They have their own problems. But we are the one who gets pointed out, as you mentioned. Because they just divide and then they point out that we are the reasons. Yeah. That's something I feel like, it shouldn't be done.
And I 100% agree. And I think that's where I would love to, I know, and this is very tough, big ask for me, but I would love to see more international students standing up for themselves. I know it's hard when you have visa, you have to worry about job and everything. And so when advocating for yourself comes last.
Yes.
But I would love to see more leaders, and I see more and more people coming up to advocating for international students' rights, better support. I would love to see that happening. And this is where I would love universities to come in and support, right? Instead of just seeing international students as clients or money, can they advocate? Because they have a big pool. Can they, and this is where, I mean, you can do the events, but can you advocate for international students? Post, they get the degree, can you advocate for their well-being? And that's what I would love to see more.
Like in a legal perspective?
More in the advocacy side of things. If universities come out and say, we need to do this better for international students, they're powerful. They have connections, they're big, people listen to them. That's what, because I think international students, because you don't see them in decision-making arenas or in the media, where they're advocating for themselves, there's no opinion. So you only hear one side, you don't hear the other side, right? You might hear in your own community, but then the rest of the people are not hearing that opinion. Do you get what I mean? And so overall, it looks like, there's only one opinion.
So it's like everyone need to stand out at least at single point. But the main problem is international students, or even students, they are more worried related to their studies, jobs, and future stuff. Yeah, even economics. Yeah. So they cannot stand out that much. So people like you have to stand from their end. You can speak in front of ministers that, okay, this is what's happening. They need your help. Work on it.
And change, you notice one voice does not do anything. You need multiple voices. And that's where, one person saying something, just like the elections, right? One person voting doesn't make a difference. But when everyone votes, change happens. And that's where I'm saying we'd love to get more voices. And so someone might hear once, they're like, oh, something, right? But then if 1,000 people say it, they're like, oh, might have to act on it, right? I might have to do this. I might have to do this. And that's why I would love to see more advocacy, especially if these issues continue to happen. I'd love to see more advocacy in a positive way of international students coming together and advocating and working alongside people like myself, other community members, to make sure your voice is heard. Because unfortunately, your voice does not count in elections, right? That's just the world. That's just how the world works. You have to accept it. Yep. But these other ways, either there's partnering, supporting, that we can make it happen. Because the more noise you make, eventually people will have to act on it. That's just how a democracy works.
That's going to take time.
Right? 100%. But your platform, my platform, hopefully we can work together.
Yeah, just trying, yeah. Well, okay. So this was it, because we have so much stuff. If you need more topics to be covered by Kano, he's here. I mean, obviously he's a busy schedule for time, but still thank you for coming. So
my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Yeah. I appreciate your platform. I think
thank you so much.
It's a really good platform.
I'm just trying my best as I can. I'm going to mention his Instagram just coming up here. You can mention anything that you would like to mention to Kano, and through Instagram or maybe through this comment section. And you can also visit Third Culture. What's the website? That's
thirdculture.net.au.
And you can have your consultancy. You can learn about more how you can be inclusive related to multicultural events.
Yep. Or just message me. I'm more than happy to help you. If anything racism, cultural related,
anything happens,
yeah,
you are standing for that.
Yeah, I can give you the right support and make sure. I can't promise anything. You know how it is, but I can see what I can do.
But even if, for a quick example, if a student feels like a racism or stuff, so he can contact you guys, and you will be standing like with that.
I can show you the right
legal
supports.
advices.
Yeah, I can't stand for everyone, but I can show you the right way to go about it.
Okay. And our Instagram is also in the description. If you need more videos, keep us posted and comment down below. Let us know how you felt after this video, and if you need more topics with Kano, keep us posted. So like, share and subscribe. See you guys in the next video.
See ya. Bye.